So about a week ago, I casually asked someone how he was doing, someone I've known for about 6 years, and they responded with, "I can't wait until this whole election is over so we can kick out the Democrats. Democrats hate our country." Okay, so time out. I had a decision to make. Was I going to ignore this, or was I going to engage in it? Anger flooded through my body, anger and the need to be right. Any compassion I had dimmed, along with much of my reason. Tell me, have anyone else been there and felt that in that situation? Okay, all right. I then became overwhelmed with my duty as a Unitarian Universalist minister, someone that upholds truth. And I acted out of my own muscle memory and became a creature of my own habit. Come on, you don't really believe that. If you do, you're just a pawn in this game of lies. Where do you get your news from? I challenged him with this air of superiority. To say Democrats don't love our country is just plain BS. You know who doesn't love our country? The rioters on January 6th, when they dragged a police officer and beat him and threatened to shoot him with his own gun. Republicans hate our country. Internally, thundering to myself was a feeling of, do you know who you're messing with? Then he said, our governor won't let us buy bullets through the mail anymore. Texas and Arizona, you can. I responded with another creaturely habit. Then why don't you move there? Now, please, don't do what I did. This is not the way of the Tao. For it teaches us to act with the pure heart, and it's then that people will be transformed. The Tao doesn't take sides of good and evil. It holds on to the center. And there is a way forward that is not ignoring and not engaging in conflict. Besides, my words and my tone did not counter this person's disinformation. In fact, it rooted him further in the ground of untruth. This conversation went on with him saying, this whole COVID thing isn't real, is it? It hasn't affected me or anyone I know. Then I said, I had COVID, trust me, you don't want it. Hundreds of people in our county have died. 1 million people have died in our country. And his response is, well, so does the flu. Something went on in my brain, though. I remembered a workshop that I had just attended on countering disinformation. I took this workshop in Rochester as part of the New York State Convention of Universalists. I realized the error of my ways, and I just ended the conversation there. I should have known better. And I still feel a little bit of shame for what I did. I long to be back in my comfortable island where we may disagree, but not with the fundamentals of reality. And attending a 1-hour workshop did not and will not change my creatureliness. Our neural pathways get trained to go in one direction, and they will stay that way until we build new ones. To truly learn something new for the long haul, you need to do it, hear it, at least 7 times. Disinformation, by the way, is an untruth created to intentionally manipulate us into acting against our own individual and common interests. Some baseline of truth is needed for our democracy, and disinformation is harming our country. This is exactly what happened during the Women's March of 2017. It was already a fragile coalition of feminists, but Russian creators of disinformation deepened divides, and according to the New York Times, they posted on social media as Black women critical of white feminism, conservative women who felt excluded, and men who mocked the participants. They also singled out one of the leaders, Linda Sarsour, a Palestinian American activist who wore a hijab. The movement soon fractured and left scars on the left. Now, there are very few creators of disinformation. We are more likely to be confronted with misinformation, which is not intentional. Good, smart people may hear a lie, and it gets reinforced by the people they work with, their neighbors, Facebook, and so on and so forth, until the false heads become a new neural pathway in their mind. And sooner or later, when you demonize the other side long enough, they become evil, they become less than human, and very soon, red becomes blue, up becomes down, and your side becomes the only patriotic one. This sort of thing happens on the left as well as the right, but it seems like it's happening more and more on the right. And with rhetoric like Democrats hate this country, the big lie of the 2020 election becomes believable. And the violence of the January 6th insurrection or striking Nancy Pelosi's husband with a hammer becomes justified. Every time we interact with others who spew misinformation, I think we have an important role to play. We can respond in such a way that is good for our souls, good for the common good, and in line with the dignity, democracy, and science of our religious tradition. But countering untruth with more facts plain doesn't work. People won't care what you know until they know you care. People won't care what you know until they know you care. The best tactic then is to humanize yourself and them and ask yourself, what common ground do we have? How can I turn from facts to stories? These are evidence-based ways endorsed by the Union of Concerned Scientists. So if I would have it all over again and someone said to me, Democrats hate our country, first, I would pause, take a deep breath, remind myself of the spark of humanity in that other person, and say, it sounds like patriotism is important to you. Am I correct? Love of country is important to me as well. I have visited all the lower 48 states. I love the mesas of New Mexico, the geysers of Yellowstone, the muddy, meandering Mississippi, the first light off of Cape Cod, and the inland blues of the Great Lakes. I love the dried out volcanoes that stand like monuments. And for me, there is no flyover land. So I have prayed in the pristine prairies of the Midwest. I have lived in small towns and big cities. I love the people. Yes, the people. And I love democracy. And you know what? I come from a long line of Democrats. My grandfather ran as a Democrat, as an alderman. His brother was a Democratic state senator. I learned to love this country from them. See how I went from finding common ground to a narrative, a story? Another way to counter disinformation is just to not repeat it. Here I'm thinking mostly about social media and Facebook. When something is just totally false, it's not worth to even comment on it. Because once you comment on it, it spreads more. When you share it, react to it, click on it, or otherwise engage with disinformation on social media, even to mock it or debunk it, you're telling a social media algorithm that the item is popular. This encourages the algorithm to spread it and similar content more widely. The best thing to do is report to the app so that it possibly gets removed. There are many untruths coming out, so many that I'm hardly ever surprised anymore. But I'm still shocked, like when someone told me, I couldn't believe this, out of their mouth recently, the reason there is a baby formula shortage is the government is hoarding it for Mexican immigrants. Now, again, saying that is simply not true, reciting facts on the contrary, saying that it is racist and xenophobic might actually make things worse. Possibly start out by saying, it sounds to me that the health of babies is very important to you. It's really important to me as well. And perhaps immigration is an important issue for you. Is that right? It is for me as well. This will possibly diffuse the situation. Again, find common ground, and it calmly lets the person know that you don't disagree with them, but that you care. Sometimes we don't know the facts to counter each mistruth and lie, and someone may be acting in bad faith, and it may not just be worth our time and our emotional energy to engage in it. Others may understand topics more than we do, but we can care. People will only care what we know when they know we care. And here's the good news. There is something practical we can do to stop the spread of disinformation. There are only a small number of creators of disinformation out there, and we largely outnumber them. Most people are just spreading lies because of the echo chambers they live and move in. There are tools out there, and there is something we can do. Some of you, I'm sure of it, are better at this than me. And it's something we need to practice to get out of our creaturely habits. So that's why I'm inviting you all to a two-part series on countering disinformation, where we can learn to steer clear of facts and instead practice caring, finding common ground, telling our stories. It'll be the next 2 Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Every interaction is potentially important when we focus on the common ground and storytelling. The good and evil mindset is one to just avoid. There is a center to be in, a center of love, a center of care, the way of stories, the way of knowing, the way that letting people know that they are heard. There is a way where we can side with democracy and still keep our own dignity. Now, some lies are just ridiculous and not worth your time. Some are deep and dangerous, and provably false. But all people are worth caring about. The way forward is the way of the Tao. For the Tao dances in the spaces between all the atoms of the universe and binds together all that is. It fills the lungs of saint and sinner alike. The wise ones inhale this Tao and release all judgment with their breath. They hold on to the center and thus find balance. So may it be.